So we mentioned previously about giving to the Kohen. We mentioned also the amount that you need to separate challah. So we mentioned a lot of chilukei deyot. We need to say a lot of different opinions. Some say 5, some say 6.2, some say 3, some say 3.5. Some even want to go so far to say even 2.6 you need to separate challah. So if you want to separate above 2.6, you need to do it without a bracha. Me personally, if we do less than 5, we don't do a bracha. If we do more than 5, we do a bracha. However, those that follow the opinion of Rav Yosef, once I think it's 3.5 or 3.6, some even say less, according to his opinion, you could separate with the bracha. But if you're doing 3.6 and on, you could say a bracha according to those opinions. If you follow Rav 3.6, you could already say a bracha. Now, also, challah only applies to the 5 main grains, right? You have wheat, barley, rye, spelt, and oats. So those are the 5 grains that that you separate challah from. If you make flour, if you take the flour and you make dough out of it. But if you're going to use rice or anything like that, even though you can make bread out of it and cookies and cakes out of it, you don't separate. There's no mitzvah of challah. Challah is only by things that become chametz, and these are the things that become chametz. Now, interesting question comes up. The Shulchan Aruch says that if you take wheat kernels and you separate the bran, so you have a wheat kernel and you take off the bran and take a layer that's over it, so that bran is usually what makes whole wheat. What's whole wheat bread? They take the wheat kernel as is and they just grind it and turn it into flour, and that's whole wheat. But white flour, they have to put water over it, and then they separate the bran and the chaff from the actual wheat inside. And then they grind it. That's considered white flour. So the Shulchan Aruch says that if you take off the bran, and then after you put it back in, that bran that you put back in is not going to. You can't count that bran in the calculation of 5 pounds of flour in order to make challah. Meaning to say, if I take a wheat kernel and I grind it up very well, now I have 5 pounds of flour. I'm chayiv in challah. Now, if I take a wheat kernel and I separate the bran, and I grind up the wheat, and I grind up the bran separately, and then I take the bran and I add it back, then the Shulchan Aruch says it doesn't. It's not a part of the wheat anymore. It's like a different additive that you're putting on, and it doesn't come together to add up to 5 pounds. And therefore, if you're using whole wheat, there's 2 different types of whole wheat flour. Sometimes in whole wheat flour, what they do is they grind everything up together, and then the amount, which is 5 pounds, to separate challah with the bracha remains the same. But sometimes you have something called, it brings over here, it is roller mills, right? Roller mills. So there's roller mills, and then there's stone ground. So if you have roller mills, whole wheat, what they do is that they water the wheat, they separate the bran from the actual inner part of the wheat. Then afterward they finish grinding, they mix it together. There you would need to add more than 5 pounds to be able to separate if you have that type of whole wheat flour. And for example, the company Kemach, right, their whole wheat, he brings over here that he spoke to the company Kemach and he said that their whole wheat, they separate the bran and then afterwards they add it in. So if you'd be using a company like that, you're gonna need to add. We're gonna need more than 5 pounds to separate with the bracha. So what would that be? So the bran is usually about 20% of the kernel, and therefore you would need to add 20% more to the flour in order to separate challah like this. If I take a wheat kernel and I grind it as is, even though it's whole wheat, for example, it's going to be stone ground. On matzah and matzah, everybody use stone ground. Nobody separates anything. Leave it as is. So if you're using whole wheat matzah, that's, we don't separate it anyways, but if in the companies, that the factories, they do it there. So if you're using stone ground whole wheat, 5 pounds stays the same. If you're using roller mill whole wheat, so you're gonna have to add another 1/5. So 1/5 to 5 pounds is another pound. So you're gonna need 6 pounds. You're going to need 6 pounds of flour if you're using whole wheat flour that's roller mills, which means that they will take it out and put it back in. So if you'd use whole wheat kemach flour, it could be when he asked him, the sefer I'm using, could be when he asked him, it was a while ago, you would have to find out now. So if somebody eats whole wheat, and this is something that that's their diet, some people only eat whole wheat, you would have to find out the flour that you're buying, if it's roller milled or ground stoned, right? It's a stone ground. So if it's stone ground, 5 pounds is enough. If it's roller milled, which means you separate the bran and put it back in, then you need 6 pounds of flour to separate challah. So there's something that you're gonna have to find out, right? In regards to whole wheat, so if you buy whole wheat flour, 5 pounds for stone ground, 6 pounds for roller mill stone. And sometimes it says it on the package. If you look at the whole wheat package, some companies say stone ground or roller milled, right? So you'd have to see. If they don't say it, then you could call the company. Have a good night.